Hello, guys. Good day. Today we're going to be talking about the human behavior and victimology. So we're just going to cover Unit 1, and that would be the part of human behavior. Specifically, we're going to be discussing the concept and principle of human behavior, and we have several topics prepared for this lecture. So before we start with the lecture, let us go over the things that we are going to we aim for you as the students to learn in this lecture. So, una sa lahat, for the students, you're expected to have or to gain better understanding on the concept of human behavior and the different factors that might affect or change the might affect changes in human behavior. And also, it is expected that upon finishing this lecture, you will be able to have a better understanding on the on how human personality develops over time through experience and so on, because usually human development is like a process wherein our human behavior and how we behave as a human being is being developed through uh, learning and through experience. And it is also expected that after finishing this lecture, you should be able to become familiar with the different causes, conflicts, and motivation affecting human behavior. Okay, so those are the things that the learners on this specific lecture are expected to have at the end of the lecture. So, as I've stated, I had prepared several topics for this session. We have here the concept and principle of human behavior as the first topic that we should be talking about. The next is we have the factors that affect human behavior. These are the things that that really has something to do or has an effect or affect to the human behavior or to the development of human behavior of every individual. Then we are going to be talking about also on the motivation of human behavior. No? What is the reason or what are the cause why human behavior exists, and what really motivates several types of behavior that we can observe from each other. No? Then we also be discussing the causes of conflicts of human behavior. And we have also to discuss abnormal behaviors. Okay? On the part of abnormal behaviors, it's not as detailed as it is, but I'm just going to introduce to you the different abnormal behaviors that can be observed to different individuals suffering from those. We will be having a separate lecture on the abnormal behavior because that's a wide and broad part of the human behavior on the study of human behavior. I think it deserves a separate lecture for that. Okay? So on the first topic, we will be discussing the concept and principle of human behavior. Let's first define what is human behavior. Okay? And human behavior refers or defined as the voluntary or involuntary attitude of a person to adapt and fit society's values and ideas of what is right and wrong. It's really hard to define what is human behavior, though it's very observable. No? Different human behavior are really observable, but what really is a human behavior? So, sa human behavior, ang titignan natin dito is the stimuli, the, and then the reaction of the person to the stimuli. So, paano ka mag-react bilang tao sa mga um, nahaharap mong problema, nahaharap mong sitwasyon? And whatever your response to those problems or situations that you're facing, will be considered as a human behavior. No? So in general, there are those behaviors that can be considered as normal behavior, no? Such as, for example, uh, compassion, no? Being compassionate to each other is a type of a normal behavior that is normal, not only for human being but also for other species such as animals and so on. So I think that's generally a type of behavior that can be observed not only to human being. No? So we go back to the compassion thing. Let's say for example, you pass napadaan ka sa isang kalsada na kung saan merong matanda na nangangailangan ng tulong, 'no? Kailangan niya ng tulong mo either sa pagtawid sa kalsada or di kaya naman, may mabigat siyang binubuhat, nahihirapan siyang tumawid and so on. So, initially, upon seeing that situation, what do you think will be your response to that? Are you going to help, no? Tulungan mo kaya yung matanda or are you just going to pass na parang wala kang nakita? I mean parang wala kang pakialam diyan. So whatever your response is defines your human behavior and also your character, no? Yung yung situation ng matanda na ito, no, will be considered as the stimulus, no, yung outer stimulus. Ito yung nag-trigger para mag-react or mag-respond yung isang tao. Now, whatever your response is, whether tinulungan mo o hindi, o dinaanan mo lang yung isang matanda na yan, that is an example of human behavior. Kung tinulungan mo, there is compassion, no? Pagmamahal, pagiging matulungin, that's an acceptable, no? That is a very acceptable human behavior, no? Yun yung tinatawag nating normal behavior. However, if you just pass through that person, yung nangangailangan ng tulong, that is somewhat unacceptable behavior because human beings are not known for those types of behavior na parang wala lang, na walang sympathy, walang compassion and so on. So unacceptable siya. However, that is still considered as a human behavior, na? So aside from that, we are basing also the responses whether it is acceptable or not. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, we have the normal behavior and we have the abnormal behavior. Now we have the acceptable behavior and we have the unacceptable behavior because all of the responses na pro-produce upon facing a certain situation or facing a certain problem, dapat naka-base siya either you are going to do the right thing or you're going to do the wrong thing. So whichever it is, basta yung response mo to a given situation will be defined as a human behavior. Okay? Now we have here the two basic types of human behavior. We have the inherited behavior and we have the learned behavior. So when we talk about inherited behavior, these are behavioral response or reflex that is exhibited by people based on their genetic development or based on their genetic makeup. So we can call this inherited behavior as the natural behavior wherein they are already with the person the moment that they are born, such as um, sleeping, na, eating. Why do you think are we doing those things? No? Bakit nga ba tayo natutulog? Bakit tayo kumakain? Bakit tayo nauuhaw? Those are already a type of behavior, no? that we possess as human being as had been transferred through our genes, no? Naipamana na sa atin yun. Kumbaga, we don't know the reason for this specifically, but we are still doing it, no? Ginagawa pa rin natin kumain, umiinom tayo, and so on. So, kung isipin nating mabuti, ano nga ba yung dahilan kung bakit natin ginagawa ito? Probably you would just say, nauuhaw ako, nagugutom ako. But then there's a reason why your body is looking or asking for food, asking for water, and so on. And mostly they are developed through habituation, no? Na naging na-habituate na siya, and then later on the information, all of those information and practice has been um, encoded into our genes and was transferred through um, reproduction. Then the traits that was encoded to our genes was being adapted by us as if it is already a part of our life. Have you ever wondered bakit kaya after working for how many hours you feel tired? Ba't kaya ganon? Or hindi naman kaya is bakit parang inaantok ka during pag nasa 10 p.m. na ng gabi, even if hindi wala ka namang ginawa maghapon, you feel tired still pagdating ng dilim. Those are behaviors that are already encoded to our genes. We don't really understand that much, but historically, it has been can be traced back to the early time wherein alam niyo naman nung unang panahon na wala pang kuryente, and usually the source of light is only the sun, no? Paglubog na ng araw, wala nang init, so yung mga ninuno natin wala nang gagawin kundi matutulog na. Paulit-ulit na gano'n na kumbaga na-encode na sa genes natin yung gano'ng practice, and then up until now, kahit na pwede naman nating paliwanagin kahit gabi, it seems like parang pagod pa rin tayo, and there's still a need for our body to take a rest or take a sleep, no? Yung mga ganun yung examples lamang ng tinatawag nating inherited behavior. And we also have learned behavior or yung mga nurtured behavior na tinatawag, no? These are learned through the different activities that we are doing every day, no? Such as, for example, verbal communication. How we communicate, di ba? Different species has different way of communication. Birds don't talk with each other, don't pronounce word as we do, but they have their own way of communication. Bees communicate, yung mga bubuyog communicate by their wings and by their movement. No, other species communicate by with smells and um, different methods such as excretion of a certain chemical, no? So yun yung mga way of communication nila, and it happens that we as a human being, as a superior species, have developed yung tinatawag nating verbal communication or communication through sounds and words. So this way of communication is considered as learned behavior. Uh, Meaning these types of behaviors are those things that are necessary for us to continue existing. Kasi imagine if we did not develop this way of communication, then probably we are gone right now. No? Probably we had not existed this long if we don't have this single most important way of communication, and that is through verbal communication. Because if we're not united, then probably a lot of things had happened already to us, and we have not successfully surpassed all of those challenges. So learned behavior are those behaviors that enhances the human being's abilities to cope up with environmental changes and manipulative or and manipulate the environment to improve our existence. Now we have here the different factors that affect human behavior. Okay, so what does this signifies under our subject matter? You might probably ask, no, bakit kaya magkakaiba tayo ng ugali? Meron yung iba sobrang bait, meron naman yung iba sobrang sama ng ugali. So, if there are normal behaviors that we're talking about, no, 'di ba? Sabi natin, meron tayong mga kapagkakapare-parehas even through the animal kingdom. Meron tayong kapagkakapare-parehas sa atin. Parehas yung behavior sometimes nating mga tao sa behaviors ng animals. But then, um, it is important also that we take note that there are also differences between our behavior. And yung tanong nga natin kanina, bakit kaya may mga taong mababait, may mga taong masasama? So, to answer that, let us go to the topic, factors that affect human behavior. Ano nga ba yung pwedeng maka-apekto sa pag-uugali ng bawat tao? And those are the following. We have, for example, heredity, we have the environment, and we have the degree of learning. So when we talk about heredity, we're talking about the genetic makeup of a certain person. Siyempre, um, we are not born and raised from the same parent. Uh, galing tayo sa iba't ibang pamilya, galing tayo sa iba't ibang magulang, and yung mga magulang natin has differences also with regards to their behavior. And traits and behavior is really a type of it's somewhat an information that can be transferred through genes. So mana-mana lang yan, no? Kung ganun ang ugali ng parents niya, probably yun din yung ma-adapt niya. And ikaw, having a different parent also from that person, iba din yung pag-uugali mo. And that is heredity, no? Since we are born and raised from different families, having different backgrounds and having different behaviors, it's definitely not surprising to have a different behavior, no? For us to have a different and varying behavior. And also we have the environmental factor. The environment, as we're talking about, importante din yan sa pag-develop ng behavior ng isang tao. When we are talking about environment, then we are referring to the immediate surrounding of that person, di ba? Yung paligid natin, yung kinalakihan natin na lugar, no, na surroundings affects our behavior also. So kung hindi kayo lumaki sa parehas na lugar, no, much more na magkakaroon kayo ng pagkakaiba sa pag-uugali, di ba? Kasi pag lumaki ka doon sa area na kung saan normal lang ang criminality, I mean maraming nagko-commit ng crime, maraming gumagamit ng drugs, palaging may gulo, then you will probably have a different as you know, kakaibang behavior compared doon sa mga lumaki sa mga lugar na tahimik, no? Lugar na walang gulo, and so on. So, environment plays part also in developing the behavior of a certain person. We have also learning. The degree of learning of a certain person. Ano ba yung degree of learning niya? Kasi we have discussed already the learning factor as one of the factors that may affect the human behavior of a certain person. So, learning also plays an important part in developing the behavior of a certain person. Kasi may mga tao na uh, nakapag-aral, no? You expect that they will display a different type of behavior compared to those individuals who have no opportunity in going to school and so on. So iba 'yon, iba 'yon. And not only the learning through the regular educational system, no? Or this can also includes those individuals who um, went into training, na yung mga nag-training for specific discipline or for specific skill. They have the separate way of learning also, and they will pick up some separate or a different way of behaving also. So we're not just talking about going to school when we talk about learning, but also the different experiences that every person are facing, and surpassing through their life course will also be considered as learning. And all of this learning will also affect their behavior. Okay? So I hope that answers the question with regards to the question, bakit nga ba magkakaiba ang ugali ng bawat tao? Now let's move to motivation of human behavior. What this it implies. So, human behaviors are motivated by many reasons. Bakit yung ibang tao sobrang sipag, bakit yung ibang tao uh, sobrang gahaman, or bakit yung ibang tao sobrang sama ng ugali. You know, these are affected by different motivation. And Abraham Maslow presented his hierarchy of individual needs on his theory. He presented the different motivations for human behavior. No, what are the causes, or what motivates a certain human behavior specifically? So sabi niya dito, human behavior is motivated by needs, yung pangangailangan ng isang tao. So yung needs na to, inorganize niya into the basic needs until the to the apex, which is the um, top of all needs, no, yung pinaka mataas na kailangang i-satisfy ng isang tao. So needs needed to be satisfied, because if not satisfied yung mga needs natin, we will face frustration. And you know, if we're facing frustration, it always gives birth to conflict, problem, and mostly criminality. That is why um, human behavior is motivated by satisfying the different needs that we have. And those different needs that we have has been organized by Abraham Maslow into the following. No? Yung pinaka-bottom ng pyramid, yung tinatawag nating physiological needs, or yung pinaka-basic needs na like the need for food, the need for shelter, clothing, and so on. So yun yung basic needs nating tinatawag. Wherein at this point, no, yung mga tulad natin na nagsisimula pa lang i-satisfy yung mga needs natin, like for example, we need to provide food for our family, we need to provide a home or a shelter for our for our family, and so on. So kung titignan natin, etong mga tao na tayo na mga nandito sa pinakababa pa lang ng the pyramid of these self-satisfaction needs, will usually become aggressive in terms of money, in terms of job, and in terms of opportunities. Tayo yung mga aggressive kasi nga nagsisimula pa lang tayong satisfy yung mga basic needs natin. So, yun yung pinakababa. Yung basic needs natin ay kailangan nating i-satisfy. So, people who are at this level are aggressive. Aggressive in terms of looking for a job, uh, aggressive in terms of saving money, aggressive in terms of earning monies, setting business, and so on. Yun yung mga behavior ng mga nandito pa lang. Then, if you are already a successful person and probably have established already, you have satisfied already the basic needs. Ibig sabihin, nakakapag-provide ka na ng pagkain para sa pamilya mo, nakapagpatayo ka na ng bahay, you have a lot of clothing, you have satisfied already all of the basic needs. You will not stop there. Hindi porket meron ka ng pagkain, meron ka ng bahay, meron ka ng mga yung mga pangangailangan, ibig sabihin tapos na ang laban. Not actually, Sabi nga dun sa saying, a man lives by bread alone, So ang tao nabubuhay sa pagkain lamang. So usually our motivation for all the actions that we have is for us to satisfy those needs. But the question is, what will happen if meron ka ng pagkain, meron ka ng tirahan, meron ka ng mga maayos na gamit, and so on. So, does it mean that you're going to rest already and wait until maubos yung food, yung mga basic needs na provide mo? Of course, it's not, no? Hindi yun yung reality. Kasi pag na-satisfy mo na yun, you will worry again to how are you going to sustain? Gaano kaya katagal magtatagal yung na-provide mo? Probably, pag nakapagpatayo ka na ng bahay, you will become worried again kung uh, if something happens, baka pwedeng mangyari, paano kung masunog yung bahay mo? Paano kung uh, manakawan yung bahay mo? All of those things, no? Kung nakapag-save ka na ng money, paano kung biglang maubos yung pera mo? Those are your worries. Kaya nga meron, after the physiological needs, sunod dyan yung tinatawag nating safety needs, no? Yung need natin na mas sustain yung naitabi nating pera, yung naipatayo nating bahay, yung mga naimbak nating mga pagkain, and so on. So, safety needs, or the need for security, kaya nga kahit pansinin mo yung mga taong mayaman na, patuloy pa rin nagpapayaman. Why? Because they're worrying, what if maubos lahat ng naipundar mo? So even if masatisfy mo na yung basic needs mo, it will not mean that you will stop from working. It does not mean that you will stop from um, striving for more, kasi nga there is always this question, what if, what if maubos, what if masira, and so on. So that's the next step that you are going to that human being needs to satisfy after satisfying the physiological needs na tinatawag, yung tinatawag nating safety needs. Kaya nga um, if even if mayaman na sila, they'll still strive to earn money, to work for more, kasi nga they worry na pwede pang maubos. Okay? Then after that, halimbawa establish na yung needs mo, ibig sabihin kahit hindi ka magtrabaho ng 10 years, may pera ka pa rin, may pagkain ka pa rin, may tirahan ka pa rin, and so on. So very safe ka na that you don't need to work anymore because you have already set all things on the go, na kahit natutulog ka, kumikita ka, and so on. The next needs that you need to satisfy is yung tinatawag nating love and belonging needs. What does it mean? Love and belonging needs refers to the needs for compassion, needs for affection. Eto ka na mag-start ka ng maghanap ng lifetime partner or yung makakadamay mo habang buhay, and so on. No, kasi kaya nga meron yung mga iba, they already have the money, they already have the um, shelter, meaning okay na yung buhay nila, but then they're not yet, they're still not happy because hindi pa siguro nila na-satisfy yung next step na kailangan nilang i-satisfy, which is the need for love and belongingness. So it just shows that human behavior will keep on striving, no? Even if they already reach the highest level of their life, no? Kasi nga uh, it seems like we can never be contented on what we have, no, until we reach the top of the needs, which is the need for self actualization. No, kasi after love and belongingness, let's say for example, nakapaghanap na siya ng lifetime partner niya, he will not still become happy because meron pa yung susunod na needs na kailangan niyang i-satisfy. No, hindi pa rin siya makontento kasi nga meron pa siyang kailangang i-satisfy, and which is yung tinatawag nating esteem needs, or yung need for prestige, no? Needs for accomplishment, and so on. Yung parang tinitignan niya kung naging worth it ba yung buhay niya, or may halaga ba, na may mahalaga ba siyang naiambag sa society na tinitirhan niya. Kaya mapansin mo, Usually, pag yung mga matatanda, they are striving for recognition and prestige, no? Kailangan meron silang may contribute, may pagmalaki at maiwang bakas sa society. Okay? So parang we can project already ano yung age bracket ng mga tao nakaka-reach na ng mga ganito. Usually, yung mga nakaka-reach na ng mga esteem needs, yung mga siguro nasa 60 to 70, na? And so on. And the last or the top of the needs that we need to satisfy, that a human being needs to satisfy, is the self-actualization or yung self-realization mo na whether naging makabuluhan ba yung buhay mo while you're living. So usually nasa mga ano na to, pag malapit na yung oras mo, no? Nandito ka na iniisip mo whether naging satisfactory ba yung buhay mo? Did you serve your purpose? Parang ganun. So that's already self-actualization. I think hindi mo marireach to until uh, you are already nearing the end of your line. Na? Yung self-actualization na to. Now, why did they included this in the subject matter human behavior? It is because these different needs affects the behavior of a certain person, no? So mapapansin mo dito kung sino yung mga aggressive type, sino yung mga security conscious type already based on what needs are they satisfying, and you can have a broad understanding on what type of behavior they have based on the needs that they are satisfying, no? Kaya nga, pag sinabi nating mga bata-bata pa lang, siguro sinasatisfy niyan mga physiological needs pa lang. So you can probably deal with him by paying him more or by offering him a lot of opportunities and so on. No? While in fact, pag nasa mga esteem needs na siya, I think money will have no value to them rather than having achievement rather, no? Mas pinapahalagahan nila yung achievement or yung contribution na pwede na lang i-contribute sa society kesa doon sa worth ng money. Nakabaliktaran naman ng mga nandun pa lang sa physiological needs na they don't need any achievement or they don't need any recognition as long as they can be able to pay their bills. Okay? So that is the motivation of human behavior by um, Abraham Maslow. Now let us proceed to the topic, the causes of conflict in human behavior. No? So the conflicts of human behavior usually talks about the point wherein you're going to question whether doing the right thing will still be beneficial to you. No? Kasi may mga situation naman nga na kung saan we know the right thing to do, but we fail to do the right thing because probably it will not be beneficial to you. No? Kailan ba nangyayari yung mga pagkakataon na yung mga tao mas pinipili nilang iwan yung tinatawag nating acceptable behavior just for them to continue existing, diba? So we have those situation that can brought conflicts into human behavior, na pwedeng magkaroon tayo ng pag-question kung tama pa ba ang paggawa mo ng tama. Okay, so let's say for example physical causes. Ano yung mga physical causes, like for example we're facing typhoon disasters and so on, na minsan uh, we face a certain situation we're in. We know it's the right thing to do, but then paano kung ginawa natin yung tama? Like let's say there is a fire. No, may biglang nasunog yung bahay ng kapitbahay nyo. Now, may sumisigaw ng tulong doon sa loob. So, ikaw lang yung nandun. So, what will you do? You know the right thing to do. What's the right thing to do is to save the person na humihingi ng tulong. But then you will question yourself whether is it really the right thing to do na tulungan yung isang tao despite the risk na pwede mong kaharapin if you're going to do that. So that's physical cause na magkakaroon tayo ng conflict on human behavior, no? Kung ako literal na matulungin, but then I realize that if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to live with my own principle, but I'm also risking my life, then there is really a conflict on on my behavior as a human being, no? Pwedeng magkaroon ako ng pag-aalinlangan kung ano nga ba yung kailangan kong gawin, no? So that's just an example of physical causes. Basta ang tignan lang natin dito usually mga mga tragedies, disasters and so on, na minsan mapapaisip ka kung tama ba yung gagawin mo. Like the common case na kung saan kapag nagkaroon ng disaster na yung mga tao wala nang makain, like for example binagyo yung isang lugar, ngayon wala na silang makain. So ang ginagawa nila usually pumupunta sa palengke, pumupunta sa mga supermarket na nasalanta ng bagyo para kumuha ng mga products na nandoon, or we can consider that already as stealing, pagnanakaw, di ba? Kasi kumukuha sila ng mga gamit na hindi nila pinapaalam at hindi nila binabayaran. So pagnanakaw na yon. Bakit kaya ginagawa yun ng mga tao? No? Despite knowing that that is pagnanakaw. That will give rise to the question, no? Yan yung tinatawag nating example ng conflicts of human behavior. Alam nilang mali yun, pero pinili nilang gawin kasi nga they're facing a certain situation that will produce more damage kung sinunod nila yung right thing to do kesa doon sa wrong thing to do. That's physical causes. And we have also social conflict, wherein what causes the conflicts, no? What causes you to question your principles are the different regulations of the school, of either the school, this is the community, or the society as a whole. That's true with regards to the current situation that we have, 'di ba? Let's say for example the quarantine rule that we have during the COVID-19 pandemic, no? Wherein we have a lot of restriction with regards to going out nung nagkaroon tayo ng lockdown. Sabi nila, maraming mga pasaway na Pilipino, uh, but then will we question, pasaway nga lang ba sila, or are they just facing the reality that they need to go out despite the situation that we have? No? Isipin natin, um, kung hindi sila naghanap buhay or hindi sila maghahanap buhay, uh, magugutom sila. And that is definitely true para sa mga kababayan natin na isang kahit isang tuka, na kung saan kung hindi sila naghanap buhay sa isang araw, tsak wala silang kakainin maghapon. If the situation that we have, no, prohibits them, no, na lumabas para maghanap buhay, ibig sabihin nun wala din silang kakainin sa buong araw. So they're facing the situation na kung saan if susunod ba sila sa quarantine restriction, or um, susuway sila, but then they are going to save their well-being, no? Pag sumunod sila, mamamatay sila sa gutom. Pag sumuway sila, probably mapagalitan sila, makulong sila, but then uh, they can probably provide food for their family, no? There is a chance for them to provide food for their family. So magkakaroon na naman tayo ng conflict sa human behavior natin, na kung saan mapapaisip na naman tayo whether are we going to do the right thing or are we going to do the wrong thing. However, the benefit is much better than doing the right thing. Okay? And that can be relatable also to the economic conflicts, na kung saan because probably of poverty we choose to do the wrong thing than the right thing, di ba? Dahil sa kahirapan, mapapaisip ka kung tama pa bang sumunod sa mga acceptable behavior, or sumuway ka na lang for the sake of providing food, gaining money to help your family, and so on. So that's also relatable to social conflicts and economic conflicts. Na literally ang mga tao naman alam nila ang tama at mali, pero bakit ginagawa nila pa rin yung mali? Probably they're facing yung tinatawag nating economic conflicts or social conflicts. Siyempre kung wala nang makain ang isang tao, anhin mo pa ang pagiging mabuti kung wala ka nang makain. So, they're trying to satisfy the most imminent threat that they're facing, which is hunger, and then maybe imprisonment later. No? So, ito yung mga different conflicts na pwedeng kaharapin ng nating tao, para magkaroon tayo ng pag-aalinlangan sa ating mga behavior. Next topic is we have the abnormal behavior. What is abnormal behavior anyway? Abnormal behavior refers to the type of behavior that fails to meet the socially accepted behavior. No? So, kanina pinag-uusapan natin yung different types of human behavior, which is learned and inherent or inherited behavior. There's also a classification that I mentioned, such as the normal behavior and then abnormal behavior. Yung normal behavior na yan yung tinatawag nating socially accepted behavior. Na? Yun yung tanggap ng nakakarami. Yung abnormal behavior naman ay yun yung behavior of the minority, or yung tinatawag natin unacceptable human behavior. No? So who decides what is normal or not? No, ang nagde-decide dyan is the majority. Kung sabi ng majority, yung behavior na yan, yung ugali na yan ay masama, hindi katanggap-tanggap, then that will be labeled as abnormal behavior. Okay? So we have here the different types of we have here the different types of abnormal behavior. No, I'm just going to go over this in a summary manner, because we cannot discuss this in a very detailed manner, kasi nga malawak ang coverage nito. So we have the first type of abnormal behavior. We have personality disorder. Ang personality disorder are usually brought by early development process, or usually problem in the early development phase. No, yung nagiging dahilan ng pagkakaroon ng personality disorder or yung maling pagpapalaki doon sa bata, usually, na such as, for example, masyado mong inispoiled yung bata, pwede siyang magkaroon ng personality disorder. Na kung hindi naman kaya is anyway, marami tayo kasing classification of personality disorder. Halimbawa yung pagiging hysterical, no? Pagkakaroon ng compulsive personality, no? Yung gusto niya siya lang lagi nasusunod. Both of them, hysterical and compulsive personality, no? Yan yung nagiging resulta commonly pag masyado mong spoiled yung bata. And of course, yung pang-i-spoiled na yan usually appears sa pagkabata ng isang tao nung nagsisimula pa lang siyang ma-develop. No? And we have also being paranoid or having paranoid personality. Yan yung mga iba't ibang personality disorder. Ang tandaan natin with regards to personality disorder is that it is caused by faulty child development. No? Maling pagpapalaki doon sa bata. Then we have also the next, which is neurosis. Yung neurosis na tinatawag natin are behavioral disorder that are brought by emotional tension. And that emotional tension usually result to conflicts, repression, frustration, or insecurity. Pero naman yung sobra-sobra yung emotional tension na nasuffer ng isang bata that causes him to withdraw from the reality. Na yung mga biro-biroan ninyo na tinatawag nating na overstudy kaya nabaliw, that is a good example of neurosis of a neurotic person, na dahil sa extreme emotional tension na nakalagay sa kanya, yun yung naging dahilan kung bakit siya nag-withdraw from reality, wherein nag-create na siya ng tinatawag nating imaginary world niya, na nag-withdraw siya ng into his own imaginary world, na yung mga pinalaki ng parents so super strict, na they have very high standard, and pag nagkamali sila or na-fail nila yung parents nila, they are traumatized, or they are being put into hot seat, and they cannot fight the tension, and usually yun yung nagiging cause ng uh, neurosis nila, no? So that's usually the result of yung extreme emotional tension. Anyway, majority of the abnormal behavior are usually affected by extreme emotional tension. Pag hindi na kasi kaya ng utak natin yung stress or yung frustration, depression na sinasuffer natin, usually um, nag-give up yung utak natin, and that will give birth to abnormal behavior, or psychotic behavior, or neurotic behavior usually. We also have hysteria na tinatawag. What is hysteria? Hysteria refers to the type of anxiety reaction in which the individual manifests one or more symptoms that are often associated with organic disease. Yung hysteria naman na tinatawag natin ay a type of abnormal behavior wherein because of anxiety, because of emotional tension, parang nagkakaroon siya ng organic disease, na kung saan meron naman talagang basehan usually, but then um, the disease is somewhat exaggerated in the fact. Like for example, ano, um, you witness a very brutal situation. Naka-witness ka ng very brutal na pangyayari, and what happened to you was nag-regress yung utak mo. Kumbaga, wala ka nang maalala on that point. In fact, nagkaroon ka na ng amnesia because of that. That's hysteria, no? Because of overreaction. Yung utak mo hindi kinaya yung tension, biglang nagkaroon ng problema ngayon. So marami diyan yung mga tinatawag nating can be classified as hysteria, such as having a multiple personality disorder, no, kung saan is nagde-develop tayo ng different personality within a certain person because hindi niya kinaya yung situation na nakaharap niya, or yung traumatic incident na nakaharap niya, kaya parang nag-shutdown yung utak niya, nag-create ng another personality na kayang i-compromise or kayang harapin yung situation na he is currently facing. So those are hysteria, no? Can be considered as hysteria. We also have Psychastenia, yung mga tinatawag nating psychoneurotic condition that are usually accompanied by mental and emotional symptoms that usually cannot be controlled, or we can consider them as irrational, no? Such as having obsession, compulsion, phobia, for example. Na yung phobia talaga yan yung tinatawag nating irrational or exaggerated fear of certain thing, of a certain object, of a certain person, or even a certain situation. Let's talk about phobia, no, as an example of psychasthenia. Yung usually ang cause nito is again traumatic incident. Let's say for example, um, nung nung kabataan mo, nung bata ka, nagkaroon ka ng encounter sa isang aso na kinagat ka, no? At grabe yung result. And because of that situation, that will usually result into a phobia, na magkakaroon ka ng phobia sa mga animals, sa mga aso, probably ganun. Wherein the result can be na sobrang hihimatayin ka pag nakakita ka ng aso kahit wala naman itong ginagawa sa'yo. Yan yung tinatawag nating phobia. There is a reason for that usually, and yun nga yung disastrous experience mo nung ikaw ay bata, and that will usually stay with you, until it will be treated, meron din yung mga may phobia sa dugo. Siguro may experience sila na kung saan nakakita sila ng isang tao na sobrang na aksidente, na sobrang daming dugo ang nawala, yun hindi madaling mawala yun. Kung naging nag-result into psychastenia and eventually phobia, mahirap na yung mawala. And usually yung fear niya will be irrational, na kung saan kahit isang patak lang ng dugo nawawalan na siya ng malay or nanginginig na siya, then that is already considered as irrational and will fall under the classification of abnormal behavior. And we also have psychosis. Yung psychosis naman, if we're going to compare that to neurosis, medyo iba sila because psychosis is considered as mental illness. Ibig sabihin, it is usually related to the brain function, either inborn yan or hindi. Kasi pwede rin naman tayo magkaroon ng psychosis because of a certain situation na kung saan is na-damage yung brain. Or hindi naman kaya meron tayong mga inborn genetic condition na meron na talagang psychosis as underlying problem pa lang pagkapanganak. So psychosis is directly related to the mentality of a certain person, wherein yung neurosis na yun is behavioral lang behavioral. So sa psychosis, guys, this is characterized by unpredictable behavior, yung paiba-iba yung ugali niya and hindi mo rin maintindihan. Literally, ito yung mga tinatawag nating baliw, psychotic person. Those are suffering from psychosis. We have a lot of those situations that we will be discussing if we're going to be talking about them in a very detailed manner. No? Let us proceed to sexual deviancy, another type of abnormal behavior that is solely focused on sexual desire, sexual needs, sexual partners, and sexual fantasies na tinatawag. Yung sexual deviancy usually are type of abnormal behavior that is really focused on sexual activities. Diba may mga tao na kung saan they wanted to have sexual intercourse with animals. That's abnormal behavior, no? Kasi usually sexual desire is focused to the opposite sex, but then there are those person who are not attracted to the opposite sex but rather attracted to other individuals or other subclassification of human being or even animals and so on. So yan yung mga tinatawag nating sexual deviancy. Okay, so we're going to be talking about of those more in our next lecture with regards to abnormal behavior, because I've said the coverage of abnormal behavior is very wide, and we cannot just include them in this topic that is not solely focused to discussing abnormal behavior. Okay, so I do hope you learned something from this lecture. If you have question with regards to the things that we discussed, don't hesitate to ask question on the comment section, and we will try to provide answer to all of your queries as soon as I can. Okay, so that's it for human behavior and victimology. Anyway, we have not discussed victimology yet, no? But we have a lecture already posted on the subject matter victimology. If you wanted to watch that, there's a card above. You can click on that and watch the discussion on victimology. So that's it. See you guys on the next lecture. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.